Yes, yeah.
Okay, well, thanks for coming, everybody. So I'm here today with a real strong spirit of optimism and a really strong spirit of service for my city and my community. I believe that Edmonton needs a mayor who understands how absolutely amazing this place is and can be, that approaches challenges and opportunities with hope, togetherness, unity, and decisiveness. And I come with a spirit of service. I've worked in Edmonton on the front lines of not-for-profit organizations. I've done a lot of community organizing to help make communities safer, stronger, build housing. I've served on Edmonton City Council for 8 years, 2 terms previous to this one, where I took this term away to spend way more time with my teenage sons. And to help, I've invested and helped grow one of Edmonton's most exciting advertising and marketing companies. So I spent the last 4 years owning and operating a small business in downtown Edmonton with over 20 employees, doing some really cool work for some really cool clients. And I have decided to step away from that and with the support of my family to run to be the mayor of our great city, because it's a time when I think that we've started to drift a little. We've begun to normalize some things that we need to fix and not accept. And we need a leader who's strong, decisive, and unifying. And so I want to focus on a number of things in my campaign and a number of things if I'm lucky to be elected by the people of Edmonton. The city needs to remain affordable and even get more affordable for families who are struggling after the pandemic, after high inflation, to get by, to raise their kids, to pay for the quality of life that they often come to this country for. That means more housing choice that helps keep housing affordable, which is the basic expense for families in our city. It means managing property taxes and not allowing or tolerating or normalizing this perpetual ratcheting up of property taxes for basically the same services as we got the year before. And it means making Edmonton more for our neighbors in the region so that businesses will invest here and people have jobs and we continue to grow industry and our economy so people have good wages and good salaries to raise their families. I want to make Edmonton a safe and compassionate city. In the last 4 years, I don't think that people can describe Edmonton as a very safe place in a lot of neighborhoods. I said I worked downtown, owned a business downtown in the last 4 years where walking around day to day, I'm hearing from my young employees, hearing from my own children riding the train to go to university, how uncomfortable and unsafe people feel at times. And I don't want to ever take that for granted. We need to work with the police. So when I think about community safety, I have 3 words: partnerships, partnerships, and partnerships. Partnerships between police and city council that are productive. Partnerships with social agencies, because police aren't designed or built to solve social problems. And partnerships with the provincial government to help deal with some of the challenges that we have in our communities. And certainly partnerships with all of our communities, and not just downtown, but every corner of our city, where community groups know what those issues are, what those challenges are, and we have to work closely in the community on the ground. When I talk about a compassionate city, it breaks my heart to see the suffering of people downtown. The mental health challenges, what seem like untreatable addictions. Again, a partnership with the province is very important. There is no, the divisiveness between City Hall and the provincial government has got to come to an end. There's no left-wing or right-wing solution. This is not a right-wing or left-wing issue. This is a life and death issue. And the better our relationship is with the province, the more lives we're going to save and the more people we're going to help. So I'm committed to building significant housing for people who need it, working with the province to make sure people who need treatment for addictions and need to recover from those terrible addictions can do so and have the opportunity to do so that they can live healthy and productive lives. It's also important that we think upstream. So what happened, where were the people who are on the streets today? What was going on for them when they were 8, 9, 10 years old? What led to this? And I think the city has a role to play in that we have all these glorious rec centers. We have busing, transportation. We have lots of social programs, but it doesn't all necessarily come together. So I believe we can make and create the largest after-school care program in the country by using our existing resources. So that may sound expensive, but it's money that we already spent. So it's just reallocating resources to make sure that from the hours of 3 to 6, when kids are often the most at risk of bad choices or external forces coming at them, that they can get free busing from their schools to rec centers on buses that are already running, to rec centers that are already there, with programs and mentors and coaches and leaders that are willing to help them get a good start in life so that we can avoid some of the problems we have today getting worse tomorrow. I also think it's really important to think about how we build a successful city. If we want Edmonton to be successful, we have to run our basic services well. Buses have to come on time. They have to be safe. When it snows, we need to clear the snow. When the grass grows and the dandelions come, we need to clean up and maintain the city so it looks beautiful and well kept. People aren't willing to invest in a city that's looking run down, where we don't clean it, where we don't take care of it. Edmonton's basic services, whether it be snow clearing, grass cutting, drainage, transit, police, community safety, we have to do that stuff well. That is the basis for a successful city. Then we can help people thrive. Then we can help and support businesses to thrive. That's my vision for Edmonton, is that successful people and businesses thrive. And a city that we can be proud of, right? How many people look at Edmonton today and walk downtown and feel great pride? Look at Blatchford and see great pride. See the number of homeless people on our streets, feel great pride. These are issues that we need to tackle. And then we think about our great suburban communities. It's not just downtown. We've built beautiful neighborhoods in Southeast Edmonton and Northeast Edmonton, in the Northwest, in the Southwest. Neighborhoods where all these great families that have come to Edmonton. We've had 140,000 new people live in our city, moved to our city in the last 4 years. How do we build the kind of amenities that they need to actually enjoy and stay healthy in their community? So I talk about building 20 new everyday destinations by 2030, the kinds of places that make cities vibrant, happy, keep families and neighbors connected. These are the kind of things that I want to work on. These are the kinds of things that make Edmontonians feel proud of our city. And these are the kinds of things that we need to be able to afford by making sure that we run a very financially sound, smart, and connected city. So that's a bit of my platform. That's a bit about why I'm running, and I'm happy to take any of your questions.
Can you put this of provincial educational tax? We seniors, we are not bringing our kids to the schools. So could that be taken off, or could that be considered to lower down for seniors?
Well, so it's difficult to lower it for seniors, but the question of whether the city keeps that money so we can afford more things and afford more investments and to take less of it is an important question. I think the municipalities across the province have long wondered and asked and advocated for our ability to keep the education portion of property tax. That doesn't mean we should spend it all. That means that we could help keep taxes lower. So we can invest some of it into things that people need and that people expect when they live in a dynamic, growing city like Edmonton. But that we can also take the edge off of the amount of taxes that you pay, especially folks on fixed incomes. I remember in my old council ward, neighborhoods that, people bought their houses for $20,000, $30,000, and now they're worth $1 million, but their incomes are pensions, and because their houses are worth so much, their property taxes are so high, but they don't have the incomes to pay for it. And I think that's an issue all across the city. Right? Seniors have a hard time with increasing property taxes, and they don't use as many of the services. So it's not a user pay kind of thing. Everybody has to pay for everything, but I think it's our job to keep them as restrained as possible. And when I talk about, long-term financial health, there's a couple of myths. One myth is that taxes have to go up every year, or else we're not maintaining services. But that's predicated on a second myth, that every dollar we spent last year, we should spend again this year. And I think we need to look at our budgeting process differently. We've become a bit lazy and really digging into the budget and requiring our administration to reprioritize year to year. Our priorities aren't always the same. Because if we keep going, 5, 6, 7% property taxes increases every year. I don't know that anybody would ever campaign on that, but once they get elected, they seem comfortable letting that happen. So we have to be a lot more disciplined and thoughtful on how we spend money in our city, because it's your money.
Second point I think of is our seniors, they commute from Bomo to Edmonton and they buy 2 tickets. Edmonton, then Edmonton to Bomo. Do you have any plans where you have regional municipality transportation policy in place? And only 1 ticket goes for the surrounding as well?
We were one month away from having a fully functioning regional transit system where there was a route from Beaumont into Edmonton.
Yeah.
From Leduc, from the airport into Beaumont into Edmonton, and same as St. Albert. It was the Edmonton Regional Transit Commission was set to take shape. We had worked on it. I had worked on it very hard for 8 years. But the mayor today and council decided to pull out of it. They make their choices. I don't think that was the right choice. I think that resulted in all of our regional relationships kind of falling apart and evaporating. And I'll have to, it's not going to be, I can't just go back and put the transit system back together. It's not that easy. But I'll have to start to rebuild the region because it's been, those relationships have evaporated. And that productive relationship, working together on big issues, have evaporated. So I'll have to work to rebuild that, and it's going to take some time.
Okay, thank you.
My question is, if you look at the size of the city and the way council is working, one can see, we are not coming out of a small town mentality as a council. Like if you look at the same size city anywhere in Canada, even Calgary, they have a different approach. They have more business oriented approach.
They have a more
business oriented
I see.
approach. In Calgary, and the Edmonton Council is I would say 30 years ago. Now we have grown. It's a big city, big population, bigger growth. Can we make the city vibrant in the next few years or maybe 10 years? Do we have a plan to look like a major emerging city in Canada?
100%, and we need to change our mindset. And Edmonton is a little bit different than Calgary. It's a bit of a government town, and Calgary's more of a business center for sure. But 50% of our budget is paid for by the business community. It's the business tax is a significant contributor. Lots of people work in government, but most people work in the private sector in Edmonton. So we are a business town. And I think we need to celebrate that. This is not about, left of center voters care about the government, and then the right of center voters care about business. We're not divided that way. We all contribute. We all love our favorite, the restaurant we're in is business owners that are trying to make a living, care for their families, add culture and vibrancy to our city. Our city is in fact vibrant because of our business community. Right? And we just don't think about our large industry in the parks that nobody ever sees, just the people who work there. But these Main Street businesses, community center kinds of businesses that bring us together, celebrate culture. We have to, this is part of why managing our finances better is so important. Because there's a outsized burden of taxes on small mom and pop businesses, right? And they are our vibrancy. And I think the business community has to think bigger about what's possible. So we spend a lot of time in Edmonton, and I think a lot of cities do this, on economic development. So we set up a number of economic development agencies that are always looking to attract new investment, new companies to come here. And I'd say, why don't we work more closely with our existing companies to grow? They're already here. So maybe this restaurant wants to double in size. Maybe it wants to double the number of employees it has. Maybe it wants to increase its revenue every year by 10x, right? We need to think strategically about how we help businesses here that are already successful, that are already celebrated, already employing people, do that even more. So the cosmopolitan mindset is this: erase the divisions between community and business. We're all the same. We all support one another. We're trying to build a great place together. And I see some of the challenges I see in some of the other campaigns and offer is, Edmonton is for everyone except business, right? Or business is all that matters. We have to worry about business and we'll worry about community later. I think the true city and true leadership is everybody together, united. We depend on one another to be successful.
My next question is, sometimes or many times, we see a difference between the bureaucrats and the elected officials at the city council. How do you fix that?
Leadership and clarity. So let me use an example of project management. We've all generally as a city accepted the narrative, because there's a fair bit of truth to it, that projects take a long time, they cost a lot, and they're messy. And I think, some of that's unfair, but some of it is fair. People who, you had the LRT construction out to this end of town. It took a lot longer than we hoped. It was more expensive than we hoped. And it's disruptive to communities. That's what's happening in the West End right now, right? Or the rec center in the West End. That's way more money than we ever thought it would be. If we'd save 10% on that, we could build another smaller rec center somewhere else. But this is a question of councillors and the mayor doing the administration's job instead of insisting that those administrative leaders do their job and basing their performance and their continued employment, in fact, on. So Edmontonians, we're using a lot of Edmontonians' money to build very expensive transportation projects, very expensive recreational projects. The mayor and council need to say to the city manager, your performance shall be measured on your oversight of these projects, the performance and of these projects and the transparency to the community, and the savings that you can generate within these projects, right? And we're done. And so we don't end up in this situation where we don't know who's in charge, we don't know how long it's going to take, and when it's going to take longer, we just move the goalposts a little bit to say, well, we're on time because we changed the deadlines or the timelines, right? We have to be transparent with people. And we have to have a mindset that we should always try to save money along the way. And it's not like we're going to make it unsafe. Very committed to safety, very committed to beauty, very committed to things looking good. But if there's opportunities to save, because if we don't save, we're holding back other important projects in other communities that are looking for things. So that's just about, we don't need to elect a project manager as the mayor of Edmonton. We need to elect a leader who can hold administration accountable to the job. And they're all very capable people. That's the relationship, is a relationship of accountability and collaboration, but accountability is important.
Mr. Michael, thank you so much for the opportunity. My name is Deepak and I'm representing Times of Asia. As the current mayor of Edmonton and Calgary, call potential separatism referendum is it dangerous? What is your take on this?
Yeah, 100% it's dangerous. I don't see the value in the conversation around separatism. I have some sympathy for people in parts of the province who feel like their livelihoods and their communities are affected by poor decisions in Ottawa. But separatism isn't the answer to that, in my view. I have sympathy for people in Edmonton who work for industries that are treated unfairly here, while other industries in other parts of the country that create just as many emissions and are as have the similar impact on the environment are treated better than our industries in Alberta. I have sympathy, but I do not believe for 1 second that the notion of separating from Canada is a viable or wise thing to do. And in fact, I think we'll learn more and more that that has a damaging effect on our spirit as a province and the kind of investment that we're trying to attract here. So as a big city that's committed, and the potential mayor of a big city that's committed to making sure this is a very investment-friendly place so that people have the kinds of jobs that can afford the homes that they need to raise the kids in safe, healthy, vibrant communities. We need that investment. And if separatism or the talk of separatism hurts that, I will speak out against it as well.
Thank you.
What's your opinion regarding the infill projects?
So I've always been a big supporter of densification and building a more compact city. I think that we build very dense suburbs these days. So I live in a neighborhood, an older neighborhood where infill is a bit of an issue. People are upset. But my neighborhood is only half as dense as the communities out surrounding the restaurant where we sit today. So I think our suburban communities have become more dense, but we also have to infill. But I will say, what was recently passed with the 8-plex everywhere is fairly unwise and unstrategic, and it's divided communities. I think there's increasing recognition that this was a bit too far and not implemented properly. Infill is important because the city of Edmonton is trying to be a more sustainable city environmentally. Densification is important because in the long run it does reduce taxes. When you have 4 houses using the same amount of pipe as one house, it just is more efficient. But when you don't listen to neighborhoods and when the problem is we believe the city has come to believe that all neighborhoods are homogenous, the same. And we know that that's not true. There's no city that's true. So I think we need to roll back some of there was an opportunity recently to change it from 8 to 6. Unfortunately, some mistakes were made. People missed important votes. That opportunity, we'll have to pick it up as soon as we can. And I will bring it back from 8 to 6 units on the blocks.
From this year, the civic election will be under the political banners. UCP says they have brought the bill recently. So, what is your opinion? Are you in favor of this new change? It should be under the political banner, or it should be like the bills?
Well, I'm going to run as an independent. I think that generally, just because you're part of a political party or a slate doesn't mean you're in a campaign, does not in any way tell me you're going to operate that way once you get elected. I feel like whoever the citizens of each ward, residents of each ward send to office, I'm going to work with them. And I don't, the premier gave people a choice. You could do it or not. And that doesn't offend me either way. The choice is fine, but I'm going to stay independent.
How can the streets, LRT, and the transit can be safe in Edmonton?
So I think we need more partnerships with the police. That we've made a decision in the last 4 years that police shouldn't really be involved in transit safety, or they should play more of a backseat in transit safety. I feel like that was a mistake. I think they're not the only answer here, but they're a big part of the solution. So we need them more engaged, working with social agency partners and transit peace officers to keep transit safe. I think, and it's also toned from the top. Transit is for transit users, right? LRT stations are for people riding the LRT, and we've developed this permissiveness that people can do anything anywhere, and that doesn't make for a safe city, and that doesn't help the people who are struggling in our city either. I think we need to be focused on helping people where they need help with social supports and housing and addictions treatment and healthcare. But transit facilities, buses, LRT stations, bus shelters are for transit riders.
I'm Mohammed from VTV-PUNJABI channel. I have a question for you. According to the media report, a lot of people are moving from different provinces to over here in Alberta, especially in Edmonton. So the population are increasing rapidly. So there is 2 issues are created. One is road infrastructure, and second is housing. So how you guys can deal with, like, expand these 2 things?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So what you think how we can do that?
So I'm going to talk about housing first because it leads to the other thing. So like I said earlier, 140,000 people have moved here since I was last on council. Almost 250,000 people since the adoption of our last city plan. And so housing is important. And Edmonton has always been and remains one of the most affordable big cities in the country. But I'm nervous that we're starting to lose that edge a little bit. So I describe a process I describe an approach that creates breathing room. So in our last term, that was actually my first term, we annexed all the land between 41st Avenue and the International Airport. Now, some might say, well, that's farmland or that's urban sprawl, and it's actually neither. The truth is that Leduc County, like all the other counties, grow towards Edmonton for the most part. In Leduc County's case, they were planning to grow their own residential and industrial development toward our city. So the farmland argument was already gone.
Yeah.
That was already planned for growth. And the fact that Edmonton develops at a higher density and a higher standard means that those neighborhoods are going to be more sustainable. This council has not allowed any planning to occur in that, so it's kind of delayed all the housing that could potentially be built up there. So we need to kind of create breathing room there. We need to allow that land to begin to come online. The other thing that matters is we have very large infill sites. Blatchford has been tremendously slow. Now, the city administration working on that project are really excellent people. I hear a lot about success, but it's undeniable that it's very slow. Exhibition lands where the old Coliseum is, not much is happening. Only one developer has bought in there. We need more investment, more housing there. Downtown, one of the challenges with safety downtown is that we don't have enough people living down there. So we need to be a lot more strategic about creating opportunities for investors. And City Council has the ability, potentially in partnership with the province, but certainly on its own, to incentivize more development and rental housing, particularly downtown. So and then we can talk about a more moderate, reasonable infill approach that doesn't alienate all the people in the neighborhoods who are going to push back and create this divisiveness. I think we can be smarter about housing. So there's huge opportunities, and we need to take advantage of them. So right away, we're going to open up the planning south of 41st. We need to change our approach and get more aggressive in getting housing built at Blatchford, Rossdale, in Rossdale in particular, with Indigenous partners who are interested to invest down there, and exhibition lands. Then when it comes to infrastructure, this is why I talk about the importance of our financial planning. Like I look at our capital budget. Before we think about the new roads, which we do have to think about, we have a lot of renewal. Lots of things need to be fixed. We need to take care of all the infrastructure we already have, right? So I need to shift some of our funding, the percentage of our funding from new growth to renewal. That's going to be important. But in planning for all that growth to accommodate all those new people living in all those new homes, if we don't have a budget that is sustainable, and it becomes sustainable because we need to actively reprioritize things and spend some money or spend less money on certain things and spend and pay for other things differently than we have, we're not going to be able to afford that growth. And the road infrastructure, it's not just roads, it's roads, fire halls, other amenities, soccer fields, parks. And the developers, when they build those neighborhoods, contribute a fair bit to that stuff at the front end as well. We can't forget that. And so on the capital side, they'll contribute, and we inherit it on the operating side. And that's the importance of having long-term 50-year plans, which every city should have, so you can plan for that stuff, and you're not 20 years from now surprised that, we had all these people move here, and now we're going to pay for this stuff. We can think 50 years ahead. And that's what our regional plan did. And now that regional collaboration has gone away, and we need to put that back together so that we're all planning together, preparing financially to pay for what we need to pay for into the future.
Yeah, so my second question is this, mostly employment coming from the oil industries. But as the report, they are not bringing a new opportunity, project. So do you guys have an alternative industry to bring employment for the young generations?
There's a range of industries. So oil and gas still has room to grow. ATCO itself is just invested in the biggest, main Yellowhead pipeline project that's running just north of Edmonton, or running from Pierce, north of Edmonton to Fort Saskatchewan. So that industry, the oil and gas industry, still has an important role to play and room to grow. But our diversification of our economy is well underway. Edmonton has a great health sector. We have a great technology sector. We have a great renewable energy and clean technology sector, advanced manufacturing, robotics, machine learning. The role the post-secondary Edmonton is a very strong post-secondary community that the U of A and NAIT and the CUN and Concordia, these places are driving innovation, particularly, thinking about the university and NAIT in terms of like that, big research focus that the University of Alberta has and the kind of real like application of innovation that NAIT plays in is very important. And then the other thing I would mention is the arts community. Edmonton has an incredibly rich arts community that is such a huge driver of our economy. So you think about not just energy, you think about health, you think about post-secondary, you think about AI, tech, you think about the arts. And right now, 35% of our GDP is real estate, right? So development, home building, legal, financing, all these shared services that are part of the real estate industry. We have an incredibly diverse economy in Edmonton, and that's one of our advantages. We can lead our nation in economic growth every single year if we're focused on growing our existing businesses, like I said earlier, and if our economic development groups work very closely together in sort of a team Edmonton approach, so that where we see opportunities, whether it be in healthcare or whether it be in artificial intelligence, or whether it be in innovation in real estate and TOD, transit-oriented development, that we can chase that investment and make it really attractive for it to come here. Because the city's beautiful, the services are well run, there's good housing, good schools, good parks. Then on the weekends, they can walk down to the river on a promenade, or they can go to a spray park with their kids. That's all the stuff that we've got to build to make the city amazing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Always will be different than the incumbent mayor.
So I think turning the page in the next 4 years is being a really focused leader. Like the mayor should be the leader of council, and that doesn't mean that you're the big boss, but it just means that you really do work to understand the strengths and commitments of your colleagues on council. Work with them to create a strategy that the people of Edmonton understand what you're doing, and then delivering on that strategy so that you can show those same people results. I feel like my difference, what I want to do is unify people across partisan lines and across industries and sectors around a common goal. I want to unite council around common goals, and I want to be focused. So focused on affordability, clearly 1, 2, 3. Focused on public safety and in every area of the city, 1, 2, 3. Focused on working with the province to end and seriously put a dent in the number of homeless people, helping them get off the streets, into housing, better lives. Focused on our public services. What should we be spending money on? More money, less money, having a good, clear conversation with our city so that we can put our city in long-term financial health, and focused on the things that we should be proud of. Like I want to be able to, I'm not going to run all over the world talking about this and that, making Edmonton, being home, being with all the communities in the evenings and weekends, learning, listening, everywhere I can go, talking about the things that make us proud of the city, and then being that voice of pride on behalf of all of you and with you.
Thank you.